Hello, and welcome to Inside Suicide, a podcast that centers a conversation about where and how families fit within suicide prevention within defense and public safety communities. I'm Suzanne Bailey, and I will be your constant through the podcast, helping to connect the conversation from episode to episode. I am a social worker who's worked in the Canadian Department of National Defence for almost 40 years, most of that in uniform, and the past 5 years as a civilian employee leading curriculum development for the Canadian Armed Forces Road to Mental Readiness, Mental Health, and Performance Training Program. So, in this podcast series, we've brought together research, program, and lived experience experts to dig into some of the complexities and nuances of looking at suicide prevention with a family lens within these communities. As a way of introducing the series, we're going to talk about what you can expect from all 5 episodes.
In the first episode, we spent a lot of time really trying to articulate what it means to adopt a family centered approach to suicide prevention and intervention. We wanted to start here to really foreground families as one of the threads that ties this series together. We sometimes just assume that we know what a family centered approach involves. I mean, everyone's got a family, right? So it should be straightforward. It never is. So here we want to be explicit about it and explore some of the tensions that naturally emerge when we consider families within these occupational communities. A key issue raised in episode 2 was the blind spots that we see and don't see in theoretical and conceptual frameworks that we use commonly to understand suicide and suicide prevention. So this discussion really illuminated the limitations that we can see of individually and clinically focused approaches and how these often position families as resources rather than recognizing the expertise that families will have in the context of people's lives. Expanding the gaze to a more family-centered ecological perspective creates new possibilities, really shifting that family and organizational factors, that attention, and supporting more opportunities for collaborative decision-making.
In episode 3, we explore different ways of doing suicide research. So this episode really brought some of the challenges and complexities of this work right to the fore. And the conversations in episode 3 highlighted both the challenges of including people with lived experience in research, but also the importance of doing so. We weren't able to really resolve any of the tensions or the gulf between different perspectives around these issues in that episode, but we still worked to acknowledge and really honor those different perspectives. Moving right along to episode 4, well, that focuses in on how families and institutions sometimes clash over how to remember someone who died by suicide. So we really focus in on some of the nuances of memorialization, commemoration, and bereavement. And in that our episodes do such a wonderful job of putting these issues into historical context, and considering the different roles that families play in shaping and guiding the memorialization process.
And in the 5th and final episode, the conversation takes a forward-facing look at practices that show promise in working with these communities, so military, veteran, and public safety families who are affected by suicide. The guests in episode 5 really underscore the importance of centering kindness, compassion, and connection in both the formal supports, but also the everyday interactions that we have with families who are navigating loss. So in its entirety, the series offers a family-centered examination of suicide that brings together theory, method, practice, as well as lived experience. Across the episodes, we attend to tensions rather than ignoring or smoothing them over. And as Heidi mentioned, we really foreground families not as an afterthought, but as central actors in prevention, intervention, and bereavement who may themselves have their own experiences with suicidality. So our hope is that these conversations will open up space for more inclusive, compassionate, and relational approaches moving forward.